Hey guys, Dan Williams here from Range of Motion. Let's have a look at a sample week of programming for Luke Burton. If we start with AM Part A, one of the issues we've identified for Luke, one of his weaknesses is his ability to generate a lot of speed pulling from the floor. So this becomes an issue with that aggressive hip extension as needed in a power clean power snatch. So Part A addresses that. Basically, we are doing 2 sets of 3 reps of snatch, pull, power snatch. These are done from the blocks at mid-thigh. So really working on the end of that second pull in the Olympic lift. As heavy as possible, but still with perfect technique. From that, we then progress that into a 3-position snatch, pull, power snatch. Now, the reason we do the snatch, pull first and then the power snatch is as you do that snatch, pull, it encourages you to finish that pull and generate the speed that is lacking and the power that is starting to lack in this athlete. So doing that movement first, the snatch pull, the hope is then that you will continue the speed and power and that full triple extension into then the power snatch. We then do the same thing for the clean. Part B is a conditioning session here. 3-6-9 bar muscle ups and 30-60-90 double unders. Very little impact or overlap between these 2 movements. So the hope here is that you're able to push through very fast with this. Your ability on the bar muscle ups will not slow down your double unders and vice versa. This means that as long as the athlete is proficient at these 2 moderately skilled movements, the focus here will be cardiorespiratory endurance. We finish off the PM session. Part C for the day is 12 minutes. This is a complex completed at 50% of the athlete's max squat, clean and jerk. The complex is 1 deadlift, 1 hang power clean, 1 jerk, 1 back squat, and then 1 jerk from behind the neck. These complexes, we always make sure every movement is included, that being a posterior chain dominant movement, an anterior chain dominant movement, a pull and a press based movement. The aim here is to work at submaximal loads, but be able to cycle that barbell to be able to move and start to manipulate the barbell around your body so you're getting comfortable basically with barbell gymnastics. Really good session here to look at split times and pacing each rep obviously being a round just to see what your pacing strategies are like. Moving to Tuesday A, this is an Olympic lifting session. You'll see Part A is a standard Olympic lifting warm-up that we do with all of our athletes. It basically ensures that we're covering all the major issues that we often see emerge with athletes lifting. Then on to Part B. This is 9x1 of a snatch, full snatch, and then 9x1 of a power clean and jerk. We're basically doing undulating percentages here where we go 75, 80, 85, then drop back down to 80, 85, 90, drop back down to 85, 90, 95. The idea with this is that you're lifting a lighter weight, and then when you go to a heavier weight, you'd expect maybe for it to slow down a little bit, but when you then go heavier and drop back down to lighter, you put the same amount of effort into a lighter lift that you did into the heavier lift, so it's a really good way to train strength. The aim being here that if you miss a lift, you repeat that percentage again. So you're earning the right to go for that 95%. With our Olympic lifting, if we're doing squat for 1 movement, we will do power for the other, and this will continue through the program. AM Part B, this is what we call a complete relative stamina session, focusing on localized muscular stamina, primarily in the upper body gymnastic based movements. Normally we will alternate between a press and a pull, a push and a pull based movement, so we get some blood shunting effect and allow high volume. In this session, however, we're not doing that. So we're doing 3 pull dominant movements, that being a ring row, a toes to bar and pull ups. So this is really training the density of the capillaries in the muscles, also the density of the mitochondria in the cells, which is what allows us to be able to generate and transport energy effectively and to be able to utilize this energy in the cells themselves. So 2 to 10 to 2, again, very, very high rep of similar movements, and then a short break and then going into the same thing for the pressing movements. Very good at getting athletes more aware of their abilities, more aware of when they can go and when they need to rest a little bit more. Incorrect pacing here would really come back to bite you. And then PM Part C, this is similar to the complex we did on the previous day. Again, this is a moderate barbell Metcon complex, but slightly different. Again, done at 50% of the max squat, clean and jerk. It's now a deadlift, a hang squat clean, and then a jerk from behind the neck. Again, focusing on similar things we talked about in Monday's programming. And we will finish this off with the Wednesday programming for the week. We start off with what we call a heavy barbell Metcon. So if you think of a powerlifting or an Olympic lifting session, you think of a pure cardiorespiratory endurance or work capacity session. Basically where these two circles intersect and overlap, that's what we're training here. So this is equal parts strength, power, and cardiorespiratory endurance. 2-to-1 work to rest ratio, which allows us to target a certain energy system here. And it also means that because this is interval based, we can have a slightly higher intensity and we get a peak of intensity at the end of each round, that being the 4.5, the 3, the 1.5, the 3, and the 4.5 minute round. If this was just done as a 20-minute AMRAP, for example, you only get that one peak of intensity at the end. It works a very different energy system, not one that we're trying to target with this session. So the weights here, 75%, which is enough for an athlete to be equally limited by their strength and their cardiorespiratory endurance. Whatever it is that causes a limitation in a session, that's what that session will train. If strength is the limiting factor, that session will train strength. If cardiorespiratory endurance is the limiting factor, that session will train cardiorespiratory endurance. The aim here is to train, as I mentioned, equal parts strength and stamina and endurance. So the movement types here, front squat is an anterior chain dominant movement, your push jerk is a press dominant movement, and then the power snatch is more posterior chain and pull dominant. So even though we have 3 barbell movements, they are focusing on very different movement patterns and very different muscle types. And because of this, as your legs are recovering from the front squats, for example, on the other 2 movements, your cardiorespiratory endurance is still being trained. So it's not squat, squat, squat. You're squatting, then a different movement, then a different movement. We get this effect where we shunt the blood between different parts of the body, which means that, again, your heart and lungs are having to work hard and you're making sure that we are maximizing the cardiorespiratory benefit of the session, not just working on strength or localized muscular stamina. Although there is an overlap, the overlap is not too much that we start to be limited purely by the muscular stamina. And then the final part of the training in the afternoon, this is a chipper style session. Again, we are shunting blood between different parts of the body here, which means that cardiorespiratory endurance now is our focus. Alternating dumbbell hang power snatch at 30% max, so obviously very light. This is training the athlete's ability, once again, to improve mitochondrial density and the density of capillaries in the muscles, which will improve the localized muscular stamina, but also their ability to understand what happens when they start to hit or reach failure in a certain movement type, a certain muscle group. So again, strategy will be very important here, breaking early and often, short sets with short breaks. 110 sit-ups, again, the aggressive hip extension and pull-based movement that we saw in the alternating hang power snatch is contrary to the trunk flexion movement that we see in the sit-ups. So there's not a lot of overlap. An athlete won't be compromised on their ability to do their second movement from the first. And then the same thing going into that third movement, the clap push-up. Their ability to do the clap push-up will not be compromised by the first 2 movements. So really, although cardiorespiratory endurance will play a part here, this is a multimodal style session working more on localized muscular stamina. And because of that, it's almost like they're doing 3 separate workouts, 3 separate training sessions in one. Each one shouldn't impact the others too much, other than that common theme of cardiorespiratory endurance. But the ground-based movement that we see in the sit-ups, again, means that they should have time to recover cardiorespiratory there, making localized muscular stamina the major effect. Okay, we can skip forward very quickly. We can see Thursday has another Olympic lifting session, another multimodal, and then a complete relative stamina session where the athlete is going from strict to a kipping based movement, almost like stripping or drop sets from a bodybuilding style program. Friday, another Olympic lifting session, which is a weakness for this athlete, hence a big focus. We have a complete relative stamina session, again, this time with strict movements where we are loading up chest to bar pull-ups, strict ring dips, and also muscle ups. PM Part C on the Friday is a heavy barbell Metcon style session, single bar, moderate weight deadlifts, moderate to heavyweight back squats, and then very heavy hang power clean and jerk. But the rep scheme varies depending on the difficulty of that movement for that athlete. And then finally finishing off here on Sunday, where the athlete is working on 5x5 bench press. Upper body pressing was identified as a weakness for this athlete. An Olympic lifting drill session, and then a complex, this time based off snatch weights, which is a squat snatch and a jerk from behind the neck. Again, ticking all those boxes in terms of upper body pull and press, dominant, anterior and posterior chain. All right, guys, thanks for joining me for this quick walk through Luke's program. Any questions, please let me know. My email is dan@rangeofmotion.net.au.